So I'm repairing this battery. It is a 72 volt, 40 amp hour, 18650. And you can see the cells here. Those look like Panasonic cells, and it came in with not charging and having issues with just something was getting hot on the battery pack. Now, I had no idea what it could have been until I actually took it apart and kind of find out they put a Daly BMS in these. It is a dumb BMS. It has two ports, one for charging, one for discharging, and the other one goes directly to the ground. It's kind of like a big electronic relay. The problem with these is they're encased and capsulized and encased, and then heat sinks put over it, and then it goes on this, and then goes on top of this fiberboard or whatnot. So there's absolutely no external temp sensors at all. So it does not know exactly what the pack is really doing, except for maybe the heat that eventually rises over to it. I consider this very unsafe. I don't like the fact that it's a dumb BMS. You cannot see all your cell voltages, you can't see temperatures, you can't see amp draw, you can't see anything. You just kind of plug it in and hope for the best. So what happened with this, the guy was saying it was getting really hot. Somebody else was working on it, did not want to finish working on the guy. And 5 of the cells, the top 5 cells of the 20S, are overcharged to 4.35. I immediately freaked out. I was like, get this thing out of my house. So right now what I'm doing is discharging them and trying to get them down to match the other ones. All the other cells are 3.65, and then the top 5 of the 20S, the top 5S was 4.3, 4.35, way high. I mean, that is extremely unsafe. This is the reason why I just don't like dollies. They have a knowledge of doing these. I've experienced them in a lot of other packs, golf carts, etc. They're not the BMS that I ever choose to buy. I prefer having smart BMS so you can see the cells, they have external temp sensors, and you have some idea what's going on. So if you could have seen these cells and realize that they're way out of balance, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't keep putting the charger on it and be like, come on, what's going on here? You have no idea. You're just plug it in, hoping for the best. It's charged, it's not charged. You don't know if the back's unbalanced. You don't know if anything's getting too hot. So what I'm putting in there now is this guy. It's a 32S. It's kind of just what I had at the moment. I got to order a few more BMSs, but this guy, I'm going to get him up and going so he can ride tomorrow. So I'm actually going to be cutting all these ends off, soldering, heat shrinking, staggering them, doing everything I can to make it as safe as possible. And then I'm going to be installing this BMS into here. Well, actually, it'll be going this direction. So if you look at the size of the difference of these BMSs, this is going to be a way bigger BMS. It has MOSFETs going all the way across. And it doesn't have them on the other side, so it's not necessarily, I would say, bigger as far as continuous. But the fact that it's a smart BMS, you have an idea what's going on. You can program it, you can set it. You don't have to take it all the way to 100%. If you try to take it to 4.35, it will stop. But you can look on your phone through the app, and you can see what your battery's doing. I just don't understand. I mean, I guess it's cheaper, and that's what it's all about. But when you think about this battery pack that probably costs a couple $1,000s, you got a cheap $60 BMS protecting it. You need to step it up, get you a $150 BMS, smart BMS, and have some idea what's going on with your pack. So stay tuned. I'm gonna, as soon as this actually drains down, I'm looking for about 18 and a half volts, and then I'll start discharging each cell individually to get them all at 3.65, and then I'll be ready to put the BMS in. And well, there it is. So I have the BMS already running on this guy, so I figured I'd show you what I mean about being able to see everything that's going on with the pack. So this is actually a 14S, so 58.8 volts fully charged up, still 18650 cells. These are LG cells versus Panasonic, but they are the same size, roughly probably about the same amount of power output. Right now it's at 56.2 volts, and you can see here in the BMS, 56.2 volts. Now, when this thing is asleep, you would have to actually turn it on and spin it or charge it to get it to wake up, but I've already done that. Here's the motor twirling. Sounds really good. So when I do that, when you look on here, you can actually see the current being drawn. Got hit 7.5 amps right there. But more importantly, you get to look at some other information besides runtime. You have current, power, and wattage. You have max cell, minimum voltage cell, average cell, difference between the highest and lowest cell, your amp hours that you've cycled in and out, your warning information, protect information. Right now the charged MOSFETs are on and discharge. The battery pack is in silent right now, which means that it's not doing anything, not charging or discharging. Now here is the battery temperature sensors. That's going to be T1 and T2. Those are inside the battery pack. These are monitoring the battery temperature cells. So the other ones are going to be your MOSFETs and balance. Now the Daly BMS does have MOSFETs for the inside of the BMS, but that doesn't help you if your battery cells are getting really hot. And the other thing is you don't have this information. This shows you what your cell's voltage is at. This is very important to keep these very even. That pack was at 3.65 pretty much all through 1 through 15, and then 5 of them were overcharged 4.35. Now I don't know if it did any damage. I'm not sure if it's going to be as safe as you'd really want it. You know, the guy wants me to do the best I can to save the pack for him. We're going to kind of watch and see if the cells drift away from each other, if they get hot at all, kind of run it through a thermal camera and see how it goes. And from that determination, we'll know if he's ruined, 5 of the series groups, and I would have to kind of reconfigure the pack into a 48 volt pack. So he won't actually lose the entire pack. It just won't be a 72 volt pack. He'll have to use it on something else. Now here we have parameter settings, and here's all the different parameters that you can set. So once I go into, say, we'll go just into voltage, here's all my settings that I have set. So right now, level 2, high protect, 4.175. This pack will not allow, this BMS will not allow this pack to overcharge past 4.175. I could put that at 4.0, I could put it at 4.25 if I want. That's all up to you how you want to have your parameters. Overall voltage protect, the low voltage protect. Level 2 is actually your full protect. The other one will actually slow down the amount of amperage that you can use. You won't be able to use all your amps. And let's see here. Go down. These are all like the warnings. Cell difference protects. These are all like, when it says warning, that means it's going to beep at you and let you know your pack's getting low or whatever is going on. So now I go into, I'll pop into current real quick. And you can see I can protect it for charging, discharging, everything. You have so many settings that you can tune this exactly how you like. Now, one of the great features is, I believe it's in pack parameters. It is in system parameters. No sleep time, so you can kind of zoom in there. You can see that you can adjust how long before it falls asleep. And the silent current, this is like when it goes in silent. You can change that. I'm not sure why you want to, but there's so many things that you could do. This one right here is really good. This pre-charge current. So you put this at 10 amps, when you go and plug in a controller or anything else, you don't get that huge arc to the point where you don't really need a pre-charged resistor or a XT90 with that extra protection in there, so it doesn't do the anti-spark. The BMS does all that on its own. So I figured I would show you that so you'd have an idea of what I'm talking about, because it can get very confusing, and I can get kind of confusing. Alright, so the next few hours I'll let you know how the pack comes together. Back outside, and it's been about an hour or so. This 3S 45 amp hour Chevy Volt pack that I use to power my K-Weld spot welder was getting full. As you can see, all the cells are about 4.1 with a combination of 12.2 at the moment, and I don't really want to take up any higher, so I basically turned that guy off. And I'm charging this, which is an 8S 6P. It is 8 in series this direction and 6 in parallel this direction. This is a very high voltage 24 volt pack. It's actually designed for this mobility scooter. It is the highest voltage that I can go to without blowing the capacitors inside that are 34 volts. And I'm taking all the energy out of this pack and putting it here, so I'm not really wasting the energy or doing like a discharge with the little heaters that are inside here. This is the fastest way for me to drain this battery pack and try to get all these cells at 3.65. So this might take a little while, being it's a 40 amp hour pack, and I'm trying to remove probably about 25 to 28 amp hours or so I can get all the cells even before I go ahead and put that BMS in. So a few more hours and I finally might be able to get to work. Here we are the next day. I'm still doing a little bit of balancing, just trying to get everything exactly perfect before I get the BMS installed. So I started ahead and on the Bms Lead Wires. I'm going to start with the ground here. Sorry for all the noise. Everybody seems to put exhaust on all their vehicles out here. And basically I'm going one by one and transfer it over. So I'm twisting the wires together and then soldering them and then shrinking them, and then afterwards I will actually put another piece of black electrical tape or any kind of tape around it. And there we are. That's basically what it's going to look like. Most people would probably be happy with this. I like to put another extra layer over top of that. A little extra security. Alrighty. So this one I meant for staggered fitment. Basically this one's going to be cut longer. My next one will be cut a little bit shorter. And what this does is keep these solder joints from being directly across from each other. The more stagger I can do, I mean, I won't be able to do them all staggered. It would be almost impossible. There's about 21 wires I gotta do this. But the more I can stagger, the better. This is just a little extra safety feature, and something I was taught when I was building police cars and ambulances and work vehicles. It also makes it easier to fit in looms and just looks nicer. Alright, so this will be cell number 2. And as you can see, I kind of gave myself a little bit more extra length here because you're going to need about a ½ inch on each side, maybe 3/4 of wire, because when you twist it together, it's going to make it a little bit shorter. So you don't want to just line it up and cut directly across. You want to give it a little bit of slack so when you twist it together, the wire isn't too short. Alright, so here we have all the wires are all soldered, heat shrinked with Clapton tape. It's a high temperature tape wrapped over each one. This is about as safe as I could possibly do this. And you can see how it's staggered, so there's not a lot of them that are right next to each other as long as where the solder joint spot is. So over here, I've got my solder gun all warmed up, ready to go. Now this is actually the BMS that was on my Zap Zebra truck. I removed it so I could put it on this one because I am low on BMSs and I need to make a bigger battery pack for that one anyways. And this guy has 4 temperature sensors right here. So this plugs in on this plug right here, and that is 4 temperature sensors that I can put anywhere on the pack. It also has 2 temperature sensors inside, which is the MOSFET and the balancer. These are the balance leads. It's going to start from here and work its way all the way to this. Like I said, it is a 32S right there. I'm only using it as a 20S, so I'm only using ground, 20, and then there's one more that goes over here which turns the BMS on. What I need to do now, the reason I have my solder gun that's getting all nice and hot right now, is I need to remove this, and I'm going to install this wire here, because the way this sits in the pack, sorry for the video going back and forth, it actually is raining outside, not very sunny today. So this guy is going to go right here, right about there. So it fits in there very nicely, but I'm going to have to run this main ground up and over, probably through the back side and out this direction. This gets connected right here, which is directly to the pack. This will be your new negative that the BMS can control and shut on and off, charge and discharge and currents and all that goodness. So it's coming along now. I won't be needing that, so I can go ahead and put that thing back away. And let's go ahead and get this BMS in. Alright, so there's my soldering job there. Now this is a very dangerous thing to do without safety goggles and knowledge, because you can damage the BMS. You could splatter some solder right in your eyeball. I had some kind of hit me in my neck. I stepped on a hot piece of solder. It's, this soldering thing is pretty dangerous. It's more dangerous than the battery itself. So, we got one more thing to solder over here. And that's going to be these terminals right here. So if you see what I did there, I split the wire in half. These are already tinned, so they solder extremely easy. So I'm going to put a little bit of flux on that guy. And then I'm going to solder that, and I don't have a heat shrink big enough, so I'm just going to have to wrap it up as best I can, and then I'm going to put a loom over it. Alright, so there she is. Now, the positive is right there, and I actually covered that up with some more of this foam piece, because I didn't want to take any chances of accidentally touching positive or negative to that positive, because if you do that, you're going to have some fireworks. She ain't pretty, but she'll do. BMS is up and running. As you see, I got all the voltage and capacity, charges on, discharges on. Now this one particularly is the reason why I used it, is because it has 4 temperature sensors. But the situation that was going on in this pack, I like to monitor everything as much as I could, especially on temperatures. There's all the cells. They're pretty balanced out. I might do some manual balancing on number 19 and 18. And maybe even give 17 a slight bump. And how I do that is I'm going to go through the Bms Lead Wires, but it's kind of on the low end, so I probably won't, just because, I'll just watch it as it charges up. But it's more important when it's balanced on the top end than it is on the low end. So there's the pack, it's all wrapped up. The temp sensors are here with the white tape there, so you can kind of distinguish what the temp sensors are. So I have one in here on cell 20, I have one over here on cell 10, I have one there which is in the middle of the pack, and then I have one in here. And I didn't solder them, maybe I was tired of that solder, burned me a couple times a day. But there it is. So right now, the only thing I have left is he wanted a separate connector for the charging. So it has an Anderson connector right here. I still got to hook up the main ground from the BMS. I'll go ahead and turn discharge off, so while I'm working on it, it won't have any possibility of shorting or anything. But basically I'm going to connect this one to this one through here. And so here we are at the end of the video. The pack has been mummified and wrapped all up as best I could. Try to seal it up before I put the fiberboard on there. Everything's working, all the temp sensors are working. There's a charging cord there, the XC60 I was talking about, and the Anderson connector are connected together. And there you go, 73.5 volts. So we will see how she performs. And hopefully I don't have to tear this thing down and make it into a 15S. The only way to find out is to put it on the bike, put it on a heavy draw, and see how it performs versus the other cells. See if it drifts away and starts to cause an imbalance. See if any of the cells get hot, and kind of go from there. Thanks for watching.